And we look forward to meeting and having some cookies and it looks like water, maybe some juice afterwards. So thanks for coming for that. And I'm sure a few more will be coming as we go along. I'd also like to thank the board for attending. I appreciate it, as well as staff. As always, the meeting is being broadcast live, also on YouTube, and it will be on the Facebook and posted to the village's website. So at this time, I would call the meeting to order and ask Clerk Saladino to call the roll. I know that he will indicate that Trustee Beth Augustine is attending remotely. We do have a phone device in the spot where she normally sits.
As President Kukler said, Trustee Augustine, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I'm here.
Trustee Gale.
Here.
Trustee Katina.
Here.
Trustee McGee.
Here.
Trustee O'Brien.
Here.
Trustee Peterson.
Here.
President Kukler.
And here. At this time, I would ask Justice to come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice, what grade are you in? Where do you go to school?
5th grade in Cosset.
Oh, I know at Cosset we're doing a great job because that was a fine leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So thank you very much. At this time, I would ask Clerk Saladino to read the items under current business or the consent agenda and current business.
Matters on the consent agenda will be considered by a single motion and vote because they have already been considered fully by the board at a previous meeting or have been determined to be of a routine nature. Any member of the Board of Trustees may request that an item be moved from the consent agenda to current business for separate consideration. Item A, award of contract, parking study. Item B, resolution, Regional Transit Authority Technical Assistant Program Grant Acceptance. Item C, minutes of the Village of Grange Board of Trustees regular meeting Monday, May 9th, 2022. And item D, consolidated voucher 220523. Current business. This agenda item includes consideration of matters being presented to the Board of Trustees for action. Item A, resolution, approving an agreement among Classic Cinemas, 80 South LaGrange Inc., and the Village of LaGrange.
Thank you, Clerk Saladino. And I'm going to go a little out of order here and ask if there's anybody in the audience that has any comments regarding agenda items. That's items that are on tonight's agenda. Any comments? And we can call Chris Johnson up once we call the matter. We won't call you up twice. But if anybody else has any comments, seeing none, I'll move into the President's report. We recently lost a true pillar of our community. Ruth Palmer passed away, and Mike and Ruth Palmer purchased the Spot to Eat restaurant in 1976, and shortly thereafter changed the name to become Palmer Place Restaurant and Beer Garden. And over the years, Ruth was the matriarch of not only the family, but of the business, and really was a true foundation of our downtown area. The building expanded, the business expanded, and the community around it expanded, all due to her efforts as a businesswoman. But that was really only the tip of the iceberg. She was involved with leadership in so many other organizations in St. Francis Xavier Parish. Her contributions were endless. She was a tireless volunteer and worker. And so we wish both Phil and Steve and their families peace in this very difficult time. And I know I speak for the board when I say that our thoughts and prayers are with the Palmer family. Moving on, the LGBA Summer Art Project kicks off a Summer of Sustainability and features an eco-friendly art exhibit, Earth Day, Every Day. Sponsored by the local businesses and designed and painted by local artists, colorful rain barrels will be found in front of shops and restaurants as a fun reminder to live more sustainable. Something. It's too cool to care. Watch for more details on this unique initiative and how you can add one of these whimsical and functional art pieces to your own yard. For more information, visit the LGBA's website, which is www.lgba.com. And of course, we invite everyone to visit and enjoy all that LaGrange has to offer this summer. As we're moving from spring to summer, we have Pet Parade and the Carnival. Everyone in the family will enjoy the thrills and excitement of the LaGrange Carnival beginning on June 3rd and going to Sunday, June 5th. The event will feature rides and attractions as well as a social district with beer and wine from neighboring restaurants. The carnival is located on Harris Avenue between LaGrange Road and Ashland Avenue. The Pet Parade will be held, as always, the first Saturday after Memorial Day, this year, June 4th, and will step off at 9:30. Please come out and cheer and look at all the exciting acts. We wish to thank all the volunteers, and there's many. The effort is extreme that goes into planning and executing these events, and it's appreciated. Also, the village worked with the LGBA to allow certain businesses near the carnival to sell beer and wine by selling cups at the carnival. Please continue to support all of our businesses. I now want to move, and Rick, maybe you can help me, but we have new signage for some of the public lots, especially the lots near Cossett or part of the Cossett School.
Yeah, thank you, President Kukler. As discussed at the last board meeting, some of the signage was deemed to be a little bit confusing to the new parking, particularly that adjacent to the Cossett School on Ashland Avenue. So what you see before you is additional signage with the village logo, as well as indicating public parking, kind of in line with our brand, as well as a little clear that it wasn't just additional parking for another event or anything of that sort. So this parking is located at Harrison LaGrange. It's deployed, and then also at Ashland at the turn, and then a large sign that's located at the lot itself, indicating, again, overflow parking on the weekends. It's posted on Friday and removed on Monday morning.
Great job, Rick. We appreciate your hard work, your team's hard work. I think the sign looks great, and I do think it will be clear for both our residents and our guests that, yes, those lots are currently available when those signs are up. Moving on, the Community Diversity Group will host a Juneteenth event at the LaGrange Community Center, 200 Washington, on Monday, June 20th at 4:30 p.m. The featured speaker is Reverend Wheeler Parker Jr., a civil rights activist and special honoree. Will be Miss Renee Hodges, longtime business owner. Everyone's welcome. I know that there's flyers that are coming out. The event will include prayer, recognition, restoration, celebration, and the continuance of Juneteenth. The normal anniversary of Juneteenth is June 19th, recognizing when a couple of the last to recognize states for the freedom of slaves. So it's an important date, and I'll read. The Juneteenth National Independence Day Act of 2021 created a federal holiday to commemorate the freedom for black slaves in Texas and Louisiana on June 19th, 1865. Though President Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1, 1863, news of this freedom was obstructed for 2 more long years of slavery. June 19th has since become a day of restoration and celebration. And again, I'm not sure if I misspoke, but Texas and Louisiana became free on June 19th of 1865. The theme this year is "No one is free until everyone is free," which was a saying by Fannie Lou Hamer. So thank you to the Community Diversity Group for spearheading this. Thank you to the sponsors, which are Congregation of St. Joseph, as well as the Park District of LaGrange. And again, everyone's welcome. And then to conclude the President's report, flooding. We know that there's more to be done with regard to flooding. We are now, though, 60 days or inside of 60 days until the trial. That's the trial with the quarry. We, years ago, had plans to build a sewer down 50th that would have hooked into an outlet into the quarry. The reason that outlet exists is because the quarry demolished a sewer that ran across the property into the McCook ditch. We thought it was only fair that we be able to utilize that sewer that would have been and gone into the McCook ditch, but for the quarry's actions. Now it will be up to a judge to decide, but our attorneys are working hard. It's truly in the kind of moving into the sprint phase. There's two things that are going to occur in the next couple of weeks. One is Tom Hoyer, who was the full-time village engineer and still does a lot of consulting work for the village, will be redeposed to discuss some of the easement issues. And Chris Burke Engineering received a subpoena for some of their documents. It's the board's hope that whatever documents are produced to the opposing side, the quarry, in response to that subpoena, will be able to go on to our webpage, so the residents will have that information also. And again, I expect that to occur in the next couple of weeks, and we'll keep everybody advised as to any progress on that front. And thank you. We are, after this meeting, in case I don't get a chance to talk again, we will be ending the meeting to celebrate the volunteers, the commissioners that have helped us so long. We do have treats from Blackberry Market and Chad's Cheesecake, which just recently opened in LaGrange, so I know everybody's excited to sample both of those. I want to acknowledge and thank Maureen from our office and Daisy, who also did a lot of work to put this event together, and Heather, who's here also, that did a lot of work to get us the technology so that Trustee Augustine could participate from afar. So moving on, is there a president's report?
Village manager's report.
Yeah, sorry, that'd be the village manager's report.
Thank you, President Kukler. The Village Hall will be closed on Monday, May 30th in observance of Memorial Day. A full complement of public safety personnel will be available in the event of an emergency. Regular business hours will resume on Tuesday, May 31st. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Peterson. I would ask if there's a motion and a second on the consent agenda.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you, trustees. I appreciate that. At this time, I will signal orally to Trustee Augustine that she can recuse herself.
Yes, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. I just will do what I have done previously, which is to recuse myself from voting on any agenda items related to the village prosecutor.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. And any other discussion on the consent agenda by any trustees?
I did have a couple of questions if no one else does.
That's fine, Trustee Augustine. Go ahead.
Regarding the parking study, Charity, this is for you. First of all, well done. I really like this pick. they seem extremely well qualified. The plan is really nicely laid out. Looked into some of their past work and it seems extremely relevant and creative, innovative. So I was really impressed. I did have two concerns, and one was on the cost increase, and I can't quite remember how we're accounting for we had 50,000 set aside, and we're at 84 with this pick. Can you first answer that, and then I had one other question.
And Charity, if Lou would be better, whoever you think's best.
I was just going to say, I think Lou's going to handle that budget question.
All right. Lou Speroni, if you could address that.
Sure. What we've proposed is that we would use reserve funds from our surplus from the previous year in order to accommodate the budget overage for the parking study. I think we're about $25,000 to $40,000 difference, depending what all the final costs are. But we would propose that we would use general fund reserves to make up that difference.
Okay, I heard that. Thank you, Lou. And then the second question, in the details of, I think, section 1 or 2 of the proposal, regarding how they're going to study our parking supply, they state that, that exact page, that occupancy surveys of all public and on-street parking facilities within the downtown and west end will be conducted on one typical weekday and one Saturday. Council will be conducted at up to 4 times per day, capturing morning, midday, afternoon, evening. So for the entirety of this study, and it's important to find out how we're doing with, parking, especially at high times, we're really going to be picking one weekday and one Saturday for the entire duration. That's to be studied. And I guess my question is that enough? I mean, obviously they're a professional group, but is that enough to really capture? And then how will we picture? Those days become very important. Do we do that in the summer, or do we wait to a different time of year? And imagine some thought will go into that as you have conversations about it. But, does that seem typical? Is that what you expected out of the survey or out of the response from some of these picks? And does that seem sufficient for Charity or President Kugler? Does anyone who wants to answer that?
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. Commissioner Jones will be answering that.
So I can take a crack at that, and if anyone else on the team wants to add something to it, that they're welcome to. All of the respondents, the different firms, provided similar parking surveys as part of their proposals. Some had 2 days, some had 1 day, some had 4 times a day, some had 2 times a day. So they were all a little different, but they were all kind of in the same ballpark. All of the respondents used the same methodology, which is that they use the Urban Land Institute shared parking demand model as their starting point. This is a model that's been developed over time that calculates, projects parking demand based on inputs of square footage of certain types of uses throughout the downtown. So they would put in Lagrange's information into this model, and then it would spit out a projection of the parking demand. What they use the surveys for is to sort of fact check that model and to calibrate it so that the projections that come out based on our existing conditions match what's observed as existing conditions. And then also all of the parking consultants were aware that we had parking counts from Fridays and Saturday nights that we've been conducting over the last several years. So they have that supplemental background information as well for those peak condition times.
Okay, and then I would imagine that as that choice becomes made, as that day becomes picked, it's based on it not being, the carnival weekend or something out of the ordinary, and that if there's extremely cold weather for some reason or it's a rainy day, then it gets moved so that it's a little bit more typical. Is that correct?
That's correct. The idea is that it represents a typical condition, not an extreme high or an extreme low.
As long as they're flexible on that. All right. Well, it's excited to see it get going, and I was just surprised by that number, but it sounds like they have it under control. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. Not seeing any other trustee comments on the consent agenda, I'd ask Clerk Saladino to call for a roll call vote.
Trustee Peterson?
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien?
Aye.
Trustee McGee?
Aye.
Trustee Katina?
Aye.
Trustee Gale?
Aye.
Trustee Augustine?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Moving on to the current business, then we'll go back and recognize all of the great volunteers at the end of the meeting. So we'll have two president's reports. Anyway, next up is the resolution approving an agreement among Classic Cinemas, 80 South LaGrange, Inc., which is the owners of the theater building, and the Village of LaGrange. At the board meeting on December 13th, the village board unanimously approved an ordinance that created an amusement tax on cinemas within the village. The tax, called the cinema tax, is located in the village's Code of Ordinances as Chapter 36, Sections 36.7 through 36.77. That's 36.70 through 36.77. The cinema tax has not yet been imposed because there's been no active cinema in the village at this time. But Thursday, that all changes. Classic Cinema will be opening, and we're looking forward to that. So after I'm done reading, we're going to hear from Chris Johnson, the president of Classic Cinemas, to tell us a little bit more. Classic Cinemas, again, will be opening with a kickoff on Thursday and shows all weekend long. After the approval of the cinema tax at the December 13th meeting, the village board discussed whether and how the village board might share the revenue from cinema tax with Classic Cinemas, which is undertaking the expensive task of renovating the movie theater. The village board determined that the village attorney should draft an agreement among Classic Cinemas, 80 South LaGrange, and the village. The principal purpose of the agreement was to address the method of sharing revenue with Classic Cinema, and the secondary purpose was to address concerns of the theater building owner. The village attorney, Mark Birkeland, wrote a draft agreement that addresses all of the elements that were considered by the village board. Attorney Birkeland then gave a copy of the draft agreement to Classic Cinemas, who worked with Mark in finalizing the matters relating to the cinema tax. The agreement includes the standards and requirements of the cinema tax and also addresses the distribution of the tax receipts. The agreement states that the village will distribute to Classic Cinemas 50% of the tax that is paid to and received by the village. The cinema tax is 50 cents for each ticket that is sold, so the village will distribute back 25% to Classic Cinemas. The agreement was then given to the theater property owners for review. Key elements of the agreement are Classic Cinemas, pursuant to the agreement, must start showing movies within 10 months. Again, we're going to do that by a number of days. After the effective agreement, date of the agreement, Classic Cinemas also must continue showing movies for 3 years. If Classic Cinema fails to meet either of these two standards, then the theater property owner is required to repay to the village the 2009 loan of $762,500 that the village gave the theater property owners for renovation of the movie theater, again, back in 2009. And that was TIF money that was given to the theater owners. If the Classic Cinema does meet both the 10-month standard and the 3-year standard, then the theater property owner will no longer be required to reimburse the village the $762,500. In addition to the $762,500 that the village gave to the theater property owner, the village purchased a permanent facade preservation easement from the theater property owner for the price of $237,500. The purpose of the purchase of the permanent easement was and is to protect the east facade of the theater building. The total amount of money given to the theater property owner through the loan and the purchase of the easement was $1 million. The village has the option to require the theater owner to repay the cost of the easement if Classic Cinema does not meet both the standards noted above. The village, however, has no requirement now or ever in the future to release, sell, or dispose of the permanent easement. The agreement also includes general provisions such as enforcement of the terms of the agreement and how a breach of the agreement is handled. The theater property owner and Classic Cinemas has each agreed to the terms of the agreement and have stated that they will sign the agreement as presented. And therefore, I'm going to recommend that the board adopt the agreement as written, but with one clarification from Attorney Mark Birkeland, and that is the easement is permanent or just for 3 years?
The easement itself is permanent.
Okay. With that, I would ask for a second on the motion for a resolution approving an agreement among the theater property owner, Classic Cinemas, and the Village of LaGrange.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Kotinik. I'll lead out start out the discussion, and that is, I think this is great. I think it's a true win-win-win. The village is definitely benefiting from having Classic Cinemas come in and professionally run the movie theater. I'd welcome Chris Johnson to come up and tell us a little bit about what they've done so far and what we can expect now that Top Gun will be showing on Thursday.
Thank you, President Kukler. So we are very excited to actually make the date that we were hoping for, not completely with all auditoriums, but for Memorial Day and for the Top Gun sequel, of which I saw last month, and it does deliver. And I'm not one of those guys, if it's not that good, I'll just tell you it's not. But it is that good. And so if you remember 1985, then you will enjoy this show. If you don't, you still will enjoy it, but maybe not as much. But we have completed the renovation of, or 95% of the auditoriums 1, 2, and 3, and we've put in the heated reclining seats. We've put in bigger screens and new sidewalls, fabric and projection and sound, and we've redone the lobby, and we really started on this right away, and I think you'll be extremely happy, and I think the community will be happy. The other thing I'm very excited to announce is that we run a show during the summer called the Wednesday Morning Movie Series, and it's a $2 show that kind of gets people into the movies. There's a tax on it, so but anyways, it's a good way for families to come out at a very nominal cost and enjoy a show. And we also have a little thing with a little lanyard and a certificate. If somebody wants to get their first movie certificate, they can get that as well. But we have our inspections Wednesday, and if all goes well, then we'll be in good shape and ready to go for Top Gun, and then we'll have Jurassic Park and Lightyear and Elvis and Minions and all sorts of things. We do hope that the 4th auditorium will come along shortly thereafter, and then the last 2 probably will be a few weeks after that. My hope is that the 4th auditorium is June 10th, and the other 2 would be right at the start of July for Minions. But that's kind of where we're at. But it really looks, I think it really looks nice.
And I was able to tour it. It looks wonderful, very beautiful. But obviously, it's now a first-run theater.
Yes, it is.
And so we're going to get movies as early as any other movie theater in the country, I assume?
That is correct. Actually, Top Gun Maverick opens officially on Friday, but there's pre-shows on Thursday. They always do. The film business, they report the weekend gross, but they always have like these extra shows that add into the weekend to make it look better. But yes, we'll be right when there's a new release coming out. We will be right there on it, provided that we have the room for it and that they'll give it to us. But all the film companies have indicated that they are excited about our edition and will give us all the films that that we're looking for.
And if you could just tell us, because it's obviously new to Grange, and that's your ticket purchasing, that a lot of that will be online.
Yeah. So actually, so there was kind of a shift to assigned seating that happened over the years, but then COVID actually came in and really accelerated that. But probably the biggest thing that accelerated it was recliners, because you'll have to remember that there used to be over 1,000 seats, and then there was in the high 900s. Now there's in the low 300s. So seats will be at a premium. You can still buy them at the door, but they're probably not the ideal seats you're looking at. So you can purchase them online. You can come in. We have a kiosk. You can purchase them at the concession counter, or whatever works for you. But I would say purchasing them in advance is probably advantageous, and then you can just walk in and scan your ticket, and you're good to go.
Okay, and again, you're putting in all new seats. These are going to be the best seats that are currently available in the industry?
They are, yes, and they raised my price on them handily, which, I guess that's the thing. But yes, they are the latest and greatest. Again, heated recliners, and I can show you pictures afterwards. To me, it's like baby pictures because I'm so excited about it. But they really are nice, and I think you'll really enjoy them. And the only thing is, if you're a little, I sometimes fall asleep after a long day, and then I have to watch the movie again. But and we have a 30-minute guarantee or whatever. If you don't like what you're watching, please come out. We'll refund your admission. We are part. That's one thing I want to say is I want to thank everybody from the village and the community for their excitement and encouragement, because we really, one of the reasons we came here was that it is such a vibrant downtown and such a nice sort of, there's just this energy that's associated with the area, and everybody's been very supportive, and we just want to thank everybody for reaching out. And probably some of our better Facebook posts, even though we've been a little quiet because we weren't 100% sure we were going to make our date until the seats arrive and the doors arrive and some other things, we couldn't quite get there.
Well, thank you. And since you plugged our vibrancy in our downtown and our taglines that Nancy Cummings worked so hard on, I'll plug yours on the 30-minute guarantee, as well as the free refills on popcorn and all pop and ices, correct?
That is correct. And there's 4 flavors of icy, so don't make it too big of a mess, but have at it.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Before I turn it over to the board, I do want to really thank the board for their patience. It took a while to come to this agreement to make sure that it was a win-win-win for everybody involved. There was pressure to really come to an agreement that I don't think reached all those goals necessarily, but due to the board's patience, I think we finally got to where we needed to be for everybody involved. So I thank the board for that, and now I would open it up to any questions by trustees. Beth, there are no trustees in attendance with questions. Do you have any questions or comments?
I do have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, President Kukler. Well, I'm as thrilled as all of you all are to support this resolution, to see this renovation and this thrilling new business restart. It's had my full support from the start, and boy, for any town to have a historic theater is a treasure, and ours has managed to operate for longer than most. In fact, I think it turns 100 in 2024, so that's quite an accomplishment, and that's been hard work and good boards who see the value in keeping that, and good businesses who know how to run it. Chris, you're going to be the top gun on this one. I mean, you've really you've really brought us to a new level. And we're so appreciative that you would consider us. They're doing such a neat job with it. It's wonderful. And also to Dan Chop and John Rod, who have kept the popcorn buttered for the last dozen years. That's also been an amazing feat too. We are all the residents of this board excited about what this does for the Grange, and I can't say enough good things about it, but I will hopefully see you all this weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. With that, I'd ask Clerk Saladino to do a roll call vote.
Trustee Augustine.
Aye.
Trustee Gale.
Aye.
Trustee Katina.
Aye.
Trustee McGee.
Aye.
Trustee O'Brien.
Aye.
Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
And that resolution passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Moving on, are there any public comments regarding matters not on tonight's agenda? Thanks, and you have to start by saying your name.
Hey. Hi, everybody. My name is Laura West. I'd like to thank everybody for having us here tonight. I'm here to express concerns about ongoing flooding in LaGrange. I live at 140 Sunset. It's the intersection of Sunset and Elm, a low-lying depressional area. I purchased the house 3 years ago from my parents who lived in the house for 40 years. Having grown up in the house, we were always aware of Lake Sunset. But in the first 35 years of my life, the flooding at our intersection appeared once every 8 or 10 years. In the 3 years since we bought the house, we have had significant flooding events, sometimes topping over 5 feet in the intersection at least 6 times. The backed up water submerges our garage, reaches our house's foundation. Nearly every above average or heavy rain, no matter how short in minutes, develops into a pond. Something has happened. The problem has gotten worse, and nobody's being honest with what has caused the increased water. And even worse, there has been no action to remedy this issue. I feel very disappointed and frustrated, and I've talked with many others in the village in my area who share my sentiment. People choose LaGrange for many reasons. People move back, new people move in, people pay high taxes and invest a lot of money into property to put down roots and call LaGrange home. We should expect some level of respect and investment from the village in return. It should be able to rain without causing flooding and extreme damage to the property. We should not have massive anxiety every time we hear thunder. We should not see yellow barricades put up on our corner and absolutely no other response every time a storm is predicted. The problem must be addressed. I want to make sure all of you do not assume that since this room is not packed with angry people, the day or week after a large flooding event, that people are satisfied. People are mad. Nobody is happy about it. You should all picture those angry faces in this room at each and every one of your meetings and come up with an action plan with some sense of urgency. This leads me to my questions. The issue has gotten worse, there is no doubt. What is the village doing to look into this issue during a storm, after a storm, to make sure that the foregone conclusions we hear all the time, why the problem is, what happened, what's causing it, are still even relevant? Is there any data collected? Is there any information gathered to make sure that that base case is even still true? Who is out there? Who is analyzing the system and collecting the data during the storms? What is the village doing with that information? We have all heard of the long-term solution for north of 47th Street called MARS. If MARS is the solution, which has been suggested many times for flooding north of 47th Street, what is being done to raise funds for the MARS project? What would keep the village from committing today to a viable solution? In the meantime, while we are waiting for the elusive MARS, What types of ideas that would not cost as much or be as resource intensive are being discussed and implemented to provide some relief for the residents? The capacity of the system has been discussed or blamed as an issue. We know our system is inadequate. What is being done to reduce water from going into the system? 1 block west of our intersection is a parcel of land owned by LT that is used for soccer fields. We have been told that the flooding arises when the system reaches full capacity. You can understand my shock and surprise to learn that the LT fields, grass, soccer fields, have drains that go directly into the system, filling it up quickly with water that would otherwise be absorbed in the field. My only interpretation then is that the LT fields are more important than our houses. In 2010, the village identified the extension of Mars to Peck as a viable solution for reducing flooding. It is 12 years later, and there is no Mars. We know the system is inadequate. This is nothing new. How many more years will we be waiting for action? Anything, absolutely anything, while other villages, Western Springs, Hinsdale, Elmhurst, to name a few, come up with cost-efficient and viable solutions for their residents. I look forward to your responses. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. West. Please.
Good evening. My name is Stuart Smith, and I too live just north of Laura at 122 Sunset Avenue. And I sat here a year ago where there was women crying up here talking about birthdays ruined, post-traumatic stress for their kids' birthdays ruined. I mean, you name it, the slew of challenges that come along with rain, and we all know there's a big problem here. So my question is much similar to what Laura is. When that night a year ago, we heard that there was one big solution with this lawsuit, which doesn't even impact us. And besides that, there was really no other viable options. And we pay a lot in taxes. Now I just did all this research that I got to have an overhead sewer put in, receive quotes anywhere from $10,000 to $27,000 cash out of my pocket on top of the tax bill that I will pay on top of that. So that's roughly, let's call that $40,000 out of my pocket. And the response that I get from LaGrange is nothing. I don't know if there's anyone on this board who's tasked with, you're going to be the individual tasked with spearheading what the challenge is. The engineer who spoke could have been a different language for all I heard. It was years and years of this evaluation, that evaluation. It was nothing real. It was nothing tangible. We all left here and thought, wow, we're still really frustrated, and there's really no answer that was provided. So I don't know if there's a task force that needs to be developed here. I don't know if there's 2 people, 1 person, someone from the community that needs to be tasked with it, but there has to be a solution. Temporary, I don't care what it is, but I truly cannot live in a world where, as Laura was saying, there's a rainstorm and I'm away from my house. Oh my gosh, I have to leave because I have to go figure out how to remediate the challenges to my house because LaGrange doesn't. We're part of a community. We take care of our property. We sink a lot of money into our property to increase our property values, to drive tax revenue. And what do we get in response from LaGrange? We get really nothing. If I drive down my street, which is Sunset, the potholes, I might as well live in Cook County downtown. I think downtown might be better. I just don't understand. There's a lack of respect that you receive or don't receive, and it is really, really frustrating. So I really want to understand what is being done by any of you and who's the one who's going to spearhead the water issues, the flood remediation issues in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I'll try to address a couple of those comments, and then perhaps if anybody else on the board wants to, they can during trustee comments. I can tell you that no one on this board is satisfied or believes that the people or residents that are suffering from the flooding are satisfied with what's been done. But we do know on the board, and I think a lot of residents do know, that we've been working hard for a lot of years to solve these problems. And these problems, while they're worse now, have been in the village for a long time. There's our records and reports on various addresses about calls that were made decades ago about these problems. And so the problem's been there a long time. The board really, under the leadership of President Livingston, has made flooding a priority, and it's continuing under my term. So it is definitely a priority. We aren't satisfied. The word was respect was used, and I can tell you that all of the board respects all of our residents. We're volunteers, we're elected, but we're volunteers, and we do it because we love the village and we respect our neighbors. And so for absolute certainty, I can say that this board respects, and I'll go so far as to say all of our staff, all of our public servants respect the residents and really work their hardest day in and day out for the residents. So I think that that's important that we say that. As far as responses from LaGrange, we do try to be responsive to the concerns. I don't know when the last meeting was that we didn't at least touch on something with flooding. It's the reason we do that is to ensure that it's reminded that it's a priority, whether there's one person from Dry Up LaGrange here or 100 people because they just suffered from a storm. It's a priority for the village and will continue to be a priority for the village. As far as task force and things like that, one of the things we recently did was staff the EQC with people that were primarily concerned with flooding, either their own properties or their neighbors flooded. So we appointed several members to the EQC with the idea of task forcing the flood mitigation. With their help, this board just adopted the 50% cost sharing of the overhead sewers, Mr. Smith, you talked about. That is a short-term solution that will be there as long as you own that property. So it could be long-term, but it's something we can do now. It's a near-term, probably not a short-term, a near-term solution. And we've done that because, again, the board understands that there's a true need and desire for something to be implemented. The litigation that's going on with the quarry, it's true that is to look at the flooding south of 47th. It will not materially impact flooding north of 47th. The main project that will eventually impact north of 47th is the Mars project. That's the Maple Avenue Relief Sewer System. It's a sewer that runs down Maple Avenue. It was started and is at Bluff and has gone to approximately 6th Street. It stopped at that time due to money, due to the density of the rock that needs to be encountered, as well as the fact that the MWRD has made us put a restrictor in Mars to stop half of the flow. It only has 50% capacity. That restrictor by agreement has to stay in place to 2029. So adding more to the Mars system will not do any good until 2029. So the reason something hasn't been done yesterday on Mars is because it won't incur any good thing until 2029. We do need to figure out a funding source. The funding source is either a regional government, state government, or federal government, and we've been working with them. We haven't been successful yet, but we'll continue to ask, we'll continue to work, we'll continue to hope that we get money from the county, from the state, from the federal government. And if we do, then we'll start construction immediately when we get that money. If that money isn't going to be there, then we are, and by we, it is the residents, are going to have to pay for it. And as we get closer to where, well, we need to have that done by 2029, if we haven't been successful in getting it outside of the village, then the village inside is going to have to pay for it. But it doesn't make fiscal sense to have the residents pay for it now, because then we can't go to the federal government or the county and ask for a rebate. We can only get the money as a future project. So that's why it makes sense to go to the other players first. If that doesn't prove successful, it's going to be some type of sewer tax. It's going to be substantial. Current prices are $1 million per block. There's a lot of blocks between 6th and Peck, and it's $1 million per block. So that is if we do not get any other resources in from anywhere else, that is where we're going to get it, from the residents. And it's, again, that project will help. The closer you are to Maple Avenue, the more help it will give. With that, I appreciate you both coming out tonight. We, again, understand your frustrations. We are working to address these concerns. As far as a point person, I will definitely say I'm the point person. I'm the one that's trying to work with the different agencies looking for money with the village staff. I'm the one working with the engineers, making sure that there isn't any other alternatives. But these are experts in the field. These are people that meet with experts from around the country to figure out what's the best solutions to these problems. And I'll continue to do that as best as I can. So I thank you again for talking. And let me say, we'll end with trustee comments. What we need to do now is go back and honor and recognize all of our very good volunteers on our boards and commissions. So, I think our first one up would be Village Manager Andre Peterson.
Thank you. Thank you, President Kukler. The Board of Fire and Police Commissioners, in accordance with state statute, the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners oversees certain personnel matters within the fire and police departments. More specifically, they are responsible for the initial appointment of all full-time firefighter paramedics and police officers. They also make promotional appointments, and they administer disciplinary action if needed. Elise Hoffenberg is the current chairperson, and she's been on the commission for 8 years. Brian Borsema, 4 years, and Tom Lovato, 3 years.
Thank you, Manager Peterson, and thank you for everybody who serves on the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners. Next up, I'll turn it over to Trustee Beth Augustine.
Excuse me. I wasn't expecting that. So hang on.
If you want, we can skip you and come back.
No, I'm right here. So I get my page open. The Community and Economic Development Commission, the CEDC, a proud former member, considers and makes recommendations to the village board regarding economic development issues and matters related to the relationships between our residential neighborhoods and commercial business districts. The CEDC stays abreast of current economic trends and issues through discussion at their quarterly meetings. The CEDC provided valuable input into the development of the village brand strategy, the logo, all of which was completed in 2019. CEDC continues to remain engaged in the implementation of the new brand through a variety of initiatives such as Gateway and Wayfinder, talked about last week. They also help promote village marketing and promotional initiatives during COVID. Tonight we recognize Russ Roberto for 8 years, and he is our current chairperson. Stephen Zare, appointed on February 14th of this year. Christopher Heery, appointed in December of 2021. Katie McQuiston, appointed in September of 2021. And John Janowski, appointed in June of 2021. Got Justin Hanson on here for 2 years so far. Beverly Hayes, 3 years. Maurice McGee, 3 years. Michael Buttron, 4 years. Tom Cassidy, 6 years. Camille Hall, 7 years. Jimmy Janetsky, 7 years. Lisa Scher, 7 years. Margaret Carlson, 14 years. And Steve Palmer, 22 years. It's a great group. We care a lot about this village. Thank you to all of them for their hard work and great ideas.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. And again, thank you to the members of the Community and Economic Development Commission. Moving on to Trustee McGee for the Design Review Commission.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Design Review Commission, DRC, reviews matters related to the Central Business District Facade Renovation Restoration Program, reviews and offers recommendations to the Village Board on design review applications within the Design Overlay District, which generally encompasses the Central Business District along LaGrange Road, Hillgrove, and Burlington Avenues, and administers the village's commercial building comprehensive sign plan. In the past 2 years, the DRC reviewed and recommended approval of significant facade renovations to accommodate Milk Money Brewing at 75 South LaGrange Road, Fannie Mae located at 2 South LaGrange Road, and Family Vision at 100 West Callender Avenue, as well as smaller renovations at 26 South LaGrange Road and the LaGrange Theater at 80 South LaGrange Road, and changes to the rooftop of the Elm Restaurant at 21 Harris Avenue since 2020. The DRC also facilitated approval of a new comprehensive sign plan for 71 to 75 South LaGrange Road and an update to the comprehensive sign plan at 26 South LaGrange Road. This committee involves Tim Reardon, who is our current chairperson, 15-year service, Ray Baker, 1 year, Kevin Cahill, 3 years, Christine Banks, 4 years, Kurt Wistoff, 6 years. We'd like to thank these volunteers for their time.
Thank you, Trustee McGee. And again, thank you to all the residents serving on the Design Review Commission. I'd ask Trustee Peterson to introduce the Environmental Quality Commission.
Thank you, President Kukler. The Environmental Quality Commission, the EQC, continues to be active in helping raise the public awareness of environmental issues and green initiatives. This year, the EQC continued to consider a wider range of environmental matters. These matters included both short-term and long-term sustainability initiatives in concert with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus Greenest Region Compact. The EQC evaluated and recommended a sewer backup prevention program, held a holiday light recycling event, native garden tour, worked with the LaGrange Park on a pumpkin recycling event, and held an Earth Day celebration. On the EQC, we have Rose Nassif, 8 years, and she's our current chairperson. Rob Beardley was appointed in September 2021. Dave Herndon, appointed September 21. Bill Holder, appointed September 2021. Glenn Thompson, appointed September 2021. Kurt Volkman, appointed September 2021. Madonna Walsh, appointed September 2021. Akruta Leva has been on for a year. Molly Mahoney, 1 year. Jana Sevek, 1 year. Lori Brown, 3 years. Dave May, 3 years. Brandon Simic, 3 years. Stan Zarnowicki, 3 years. And Linda Christensen, 13 years. We thank them all.
And thank you, Trustee Peterson, and thank you for the hard work of all the members of the Environmental Quality Commission. Trustee Kretinek with the Plan Commission.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. As noted, I'll be introducing the Plan Commission. There are 7 members. They're each appointed to 3-year terms. The Plan Commission reviews and recommends applications for special use permits, plan development approval, site plan approval, amendments to the zoning code and official map, vacation of public rights of way, and subdivision plots. Since 2020, the Plan Commission conducted public hearings and considered text amendments to update requirements for accessory structures in a single zoning code district, solar energy systems, personal wireless facilities, commercial uses, and non-conforming structures. The Plan Commission also reviewed applications for 2 re-subdivisions, resulting in 4 single-family lots, 2 rezoning requests from the Park District for their recently acquired property at 610 East Avenue and a property at 511 East Cossett Avenue, a text amendment and special use for the Park District for above-ground gasoline storage tanks, a special use and text amendment to allow for a co-working use with retail sales area on the first floor in the C-1 CR District, that's brick and mortar, at 30 South LaGrange Road, and a special use for outdoor dining at 56 South LaGrange Road, Palmer's Place. Plan Commission continues to review zoning code and provide recommendations for updates and revisions as warranted. The Plan Commission consists of their current chairperson, serving 13 years, Greg Pace, serving for 2 years, Peter O'Connor, serving for 3 years, Suzanne Mosher, serving for 5 years, Glenn Wentink, serving for 6 years, the Hoff, Jeff Hoffenberg, serving for 7 years, Dave Schwartz, and serving for 8 years, Julie Egan. Members of the Plan Commission, thank you for all your hard work. It's certainly appreciated.
Thank you, Trustee Kotinik. And moving on to Trustee Gale with the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Zoning Board of Appeals is made up of 7 members. They each serve a 5-year term. The Zoning Board of Appeals, also known as the ZBA, reviews applications for relief from one or more requirements of the village's zoning code. It conducts public hearings and makes recommendations to the Board of Trustees regarding those applications for zoning variations. Typical requests for zoning variations relate to front, side, and rear yard setbacks for single-family homes, building coverage for single-family homes, building coverage and setbacks for the replacement of detached garages, and the like. Since 2020, the ZBA has heard 5 applications for variations seeking relief from the following code requirements. 2 variations seeking relief from the required yard restrictions for patios. 1 variation was seeking relief from the front yard requirement for the construction of an addition. 1 variation seeking relief for the building coverage maximum for the construction of a new 2-car garage. And 1 variation from the prohibited fence locations for a fence located within the front yard. The following members serve on the ZBA. Michael Finder, 12 years, and he's the current chairperson. Liam Breshnahan, he was appointed on June 2021. Bridget Sheehan, also appointed June 2021. Kate Hennessy is in her first year. Anjali Peterson, 2 years. Paul Kurtman, 3 years. And Clay Edwards, 5 years.
Thank you, Trustee Gale. There are 2 residents that are serving on the 5-member Fire Pension Board, and I would ask Chief Favre to introduce those 2.
Thank you. We have 2 members on the Fire Pension Advisory Board, John Peterson and William O'Brien. The Pension Board was created according to Illinois state statute to review pension investment activity and evaluate disability claims, fitness for duty, and other matters of operational. John Peterson is one of 2 residents of the 5-member board, and he's been serving on the board since June of 2015. William O'Brien is the 2nd resident member of the pension board, and Mr. O'Brien's been serving since October of 2020. Thank you both for doing a great job on the pension board.
And thank you, Chief. Moving on to the Police Pension Board, another 5-member board with 2 residents, one who's retiring his service or has just recently retired, but I'd move to Chief Wardlaw to introduce both of them.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Police Pension Board advisory members include Andrew James and John Mattern. The Police Pension Board was created according to Illinois state statute to review pension investments, activity, and evaluate disability claims, fitness for duty, and other matters of an operational nature. The village recognizes the service of Andrew James, who is one of 2 resident members of the 5-member Police Pension Board. Mr. James served on the board from July 2017 to April of 2022. John Mattern is the 2nd resident member of the 5-member Police Pension Board. Mr. Mattern has served on the board since July of 2020. We thank them for their service.
Thank you, Chief. We do currently have some openings on the Design Review Commission, so if anybody would like to volunteer for that, please reach out to myself or Village Manager Peterson for consideration. We, at this meeting and the next meeting, will be reappointing several members, and so I'm going to read all of their names and then ask for a motion and second on the reappointments. So that to the CEDC, I would be recommending for reappointment Beverly Hayes, Justin Hansen, Maurice McGee, and Camille Hall. For the Design Review Commission, I would be recommending reappointment of Kevin Cahill. For the Environmental Quality Commission, I would be appointing or asking for reappointment for Rose Nassif, Akuti Leva, and Bill Holder. On the Plan Commission, the reappointment of Greg Pace, Peter O'Connor, and Jeff Hoffenberg. And then on the Police Pension Board, the reappointment of John Mattern.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on any of the reappointments? Trustee Augustine, there is no hands being raised. Any comments on them?
Believe it or not, no, I'm good with that.
All right, thank you. Then I'd ask Clerk Saladino for a roll call vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And that passes unanimously on that voice vote, which was probably the more appropriate vote. So thank you, Clerk Saladino, for that. Moving along, we are now at the trustee comments. So are there any trustee comments before we have cookies? Oh, Trustee Gale isn't hungry. He is looking to comment.
Sorry, Mr. President.
No problem.
Just two comments. I'll try to be brief. One, just had a thought with respect to the theater I wanted to share. I just want to express my appreciation for everybody's participation and efforts to get the deal done. I think what's great about our community and our village is the community members support the businesses work with the leadership within the village, and we all work together and have this virtuous cycle where we try to create an environment that's good for the businesses, good for the community, and everybody works together. And I think this is evidence of that. So I want to just comment on that. And second of all, I wanted to comment with respect to the flooding issue. I know we've talked about it at length already here, but there's no easy answer to the problems. I mean, if there were, we would have solved them already. We're confronted with a changing climate. We're confronted with deteriorating infrastructure. It makes it a moving target, harder to address. But we have tried to address it over time. We've done low-level things like we hold the line on, like the ZBA reading that I had. We hold the line on buildings and lot coverages. Intermediately, we've looked at storm traps, working with the school districts. Also, we repair our sewers, every time we can. And long term, we've got the 50th Storm Street sewer lawsuits. And I know a lot about all of this because, years and years ago, Trustee McCarty and I sat down and we tried to work through a lot of these issues. It's big, it's intractable, and we're working hard to solve it. So I just wanted to add that in as well.
Thank you, Trustee Gale. Trustee Augustine, I don't see anybody else up on the dais that has their hand raised. Do you have any trustee comments?
I hadn't planned to say this, but, after hearing and following up on what Lou's saying, agree with how hard we're trying to work to address these issues. And again, this won't solve any problems, but I'm wondering if areas like Sunset and Elm and some other areas, separate from the 50th areas that are flooding south of 47th, if there's a way to get the Burke Engineering, our DPW, one or two of us, together with some of those neighbors to address what's being done, what can be done, let them hear from us, let them ask us their questions, get some feedback and hear their ideas first I'm just wondering if that kind of thing can be done to help inform and get the ideas out and transfer information in a way that wouldn't be really done here. So I'm just throwing that out there as an idea.
Thank you, Trustee Augustine. And following up what Trustee Gale said, we did early in my term as president, I asked for a kind of a leadership focus group of a couple of trustees to look at alternatives to make sure we were on the right course with the flooding. And I appointed Trustee Gale and Trustee McCarty due to their both professional experience as well as their knowledge of the village. Trustee Gale, I believe, has undergrad and master's in engineering, as well as a law degree, and Trustee McCarty is an architect. And they studied not only our village, but many of the other surrounding villages to determine what would be the best course of action. And from their research concluded that continuing as priority number one with the 50th Street litigation would be the best course of action, and that is what the board has done. So again, subsequent to that task force, we hired Chris Burke Engineering to look. And the reason, there's two reasons really Chris Burke Engineering were hired. One, they're the biggest, most well-known engineering firm for this type of work. And secondly, they were the engineering firm that were the point person for Elmhurst, which did a remarkable job in mitigating their flooding. So we wanted to bring them in, and we have. And so, again, we're not holding back any of their great ideas. That we will continue to communicate as much as possible with the residents. So with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn at 8:45.
So moved.
Thank you, Trustee Cortino. Thank you, Trustee Gale. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. We will come back in 2 weeks, and everybody enjoy the spring into the summer. Thank you.